Greetings. Hey, it's Susie Q. Just came off of a 4 day kind of beautiful experience with Celebrate Your Life with Anita Morjani. And she, of course, some of you may know that she went into a near death experience and she came back and she's been really sharing at a deep level. And so I was a staffer, from Friday to Monday. And I'm really just embracing that sharing with the NDE, the near death experience. So sometimes when we're looking at some of our experiences, some things come in real succinctly, and some come in kind of spiraling energies. So for a lot of us, we get to raise our hand who had an NDE, and I raised my hand. I didn't say anything, but I've kind of talked about this a handful of times with the NDE experience. But I have to tell you that back in fall of 2007, I was going to go for a real estate transaction. And at the point, I was at a high point and going down a hill, it was wet and I was hydroplaning. I had absolutely no power to do anything. I just knew that time goes slow sometimes when we're having some of these strange anomalies or strange ways of looking at life. And so eventually, as a yogi and a yoga teacher and yoga therapist, is I decided just to get real loose with my body, just to get really kind of comfortable. And, of course, I had the strap across me. So that kind of protected me as well. But then I noticed that time goes real slow when things are happening. So I started kind of thinking about my kids, my grandkids, my future grandkids, just thinking about all these different things. And then again, people that were driving by were just kind of like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "What are you doing?" But I just had to stay in my own state of consciousness. And so the vehicle that I was going to have an impact with was a large truck, and it was at a red light. And so I just decided to just relax into the space, the car, and I just kind of released any feelings of fear or doubt or tragedy. I just flew out of my body. And that was pretty extraordinary. So basically, after the collision happened, I went right back to being Susie again. I didn't feel any impact from the accident. I had a little bit with some of the seatbelt, some little bruising there, but I just went back, did the real estate transaction, and I had a win, with that transaction. So all of these things are showing up so differently when people are having what we call a near death experience. So again, that accident was in the fall of 2007, and going down hydroplaning, going down into like Oak Hill, Texas, kind of close to Austin and Dripping Springs, and that's what happened. So I called the police, I called my insurance company, I called for a rental car, and then off I went to do that transaction. And so going back in a different way of looking at this. So sometimes some of these things happen. Again, like I said, I flew out during the time that accident was going on, and then I came back into the body after the collision had already happened. And again, like I said, I felt like I was just making phone calls, right? So I just acknowledge that. So going back in a different level of linear or logical timing is back in 2015, is that's when I really had most of my gifts that came through in the year of 2015. And so back in about September of 2015, I realized that there was a near-death experience in a different way. And again, I didn't really connect it with that near-death experience with the accident from 2007, because I really look at that accident as I flew out, I went to another place, and then eventually I came back into the body. I don't really know how to really process that or share that, but that's exactly what happened. So that event with the near death experience back in September 2015. Now, again, there was a solar and lunar eclipses in that same month of September of 2015. So so what I really when I was looking at that near death experience, I was going into a night sky. There was a little bit of twilight, and I kept walking, and it was kind of muddy. There were like sometimes people there's like a tunnel or a hallway or something, but it was really something almost like outside, and there were other people that were on the ground. They were like muddy and wet, and they said don't go to the light. And all I wanted to do was go to the light. I wanted to freaking go to that light. So I kept going, and people said don't go to the light, they're going to kill you. I don't know. This is what I was hearing is don't go there, it's going to kill you. So I decided to keep on walking. Most people were on the ground and kind of in a weird way, but I kept going towards that light. And I went to a space eventually where it was kind of like some columns and there were some stairs going up. I couldn't really see because I couldn't really see how tall that building was. It seemed like it was really large. So I decided to just go into that space because I figured out if I could go into that place and see that light, maybe I'll get some guidance. And I never was scared. The other people were scared to go, they were scared to go. But I was like, I've got to know what the light is. So then I started walking through that space, and it was already kind of saturating the light within that space. And with that saturation of light, I kind of saw like a faint, like a window. It seemed like a window. And I thought, well, I bet if I could go to that window, I could see the light. I could see what was going on. And then eventually I just started noticing, well, let me just, whenever I do astral travel or any type of travel, I use the palms of my hands. And I decided to look down at the palms of my hands, and I realized I didn't have a body. I did not have a body. And in that experience with not having a body, I kind of felt like, but wait a minute, I'm still Susie and I still have my personality. I don't have a body, but I still have the personality and the nature of Susie. But then I was like thinking about my kids and other things, but I just started realizing that maybe I did go to a different place, and maybe I can't even really process it at this time, but I just know that that energy that happened for me with that beautiful light was helping me to understand what it would be like when we go to the other side, when we go to spirit. And so that's what I really loved about it, is that when we don't have a body anymore, and I made the choice to go to that light. They said don't go to the light. But then I kept going to the light. I kept persevering, and then I realized at some point I had no body anymore. There was no body. And from that, my realization from that, there was nothing traumatic about it. Again, because that accident, I flew out of the body before the accident happened. And then I came back into the space in my car, and I still felt okay. But then working with that personality with no body, it's really showing us that whoever you're working with, or your family, or people who have already passed on, they still have personality. They still have the way that they relate with one another. They are there with you. They're acknowledging you for coming. But again, I had to go back into my body. All of these things are helping us. But I think the biggest win was noticing when I went into what we call the light, or that tunnel or that hallway, is that I just acknowledge that it's a beautiful place, it's a beautiful space, and we still have our unique and extraordinary personality. So we're going to do a couple of more videos related to this with the NDE, the near-death experience, and I think the next one we'll do a life review with no physical ascension. That'll be the next one. So we'll see you soon, and namaste.